all these original titles and no music, so
Terrific.
I got busy.
So you're performing and you're writing and what else, and you're walking, but how do you keep all of these things in balance, and is there anything else you're doing that we should know about?
Oh gosh, well I'm sort of 3/4 of the way through a second book.
You are? Wow.
Oh
Good
yes.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of stuck at the moment, speaking of writer's block, but I'm sure it will clear itself up.
Yeah. And with all of these different things that you're doing, and they're all creative in one way and a different way than others, is there anything that stands out for you? Something that you want to do more of than you have done in the past?
Again, I don't really have any,
No plan.
no real long-range plans. Hopefully I'll finish the second book.
Right.
And I'm still writing songs, you know. With quartet, you know, we each contribute a couple of songs to the album, and they're all chosen by the other members of the group. We've all had songs turned down by quartet, which is not to say they're not good songs, just not working for quartet. So,
Right.
We've got less than a minute left,
Sure.
and I wanted to ask you, who are some of the performers particularly that stand out for you that you've known in your career over 50 years?
oh gosh.
People that you really admire.
Well, not necessarily in the folk music thing, although there are some. I think Paul Simon is an amazing writer
Yes.
and producer of his own material. I actually got to see Ray Charles live at one point, which I never thought I'd be able to do, and it was an astonishing experience.
We're going to have to interrupt you
Well,
there.
yeah.
Unfortunately, we could do another hour with you.
Right,
but
right.
Anyway, thanks for
But
being here.
having the time we've had with you has been very special. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Sylvia, what a pleasure to have you on the show to put some perspective on a career that really has been second to none in this country. We continue to wish you well. And don't go away. We're going to talk about something a little more sensitive right after this break.
We've all had those moments, forgetting the name of a very close friend, going upstairs to fetch something, then forgetting why you went upstairs, not remembering to put the garbage out like you've been doing every Tuesday for 12 consecutive years.
Most of the time we just laugh it off or joke that we're getting Alzheimer's disease. But is there some truth in that? Or is memory loss just a normal result of getting older? With us tonight is Dr. Sharon Cohen, Medical Director at the Toronto Memory Program, which is a multidisciplinary, community-based medical facility specializing in the diagnosis and treatment of Alzheimer's and related disorders.
Dr. Cohen, welcome. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
joining us. And I guess, first of all, the question on everyone's mind is memory loss a sign of impending dementia or Alzheimer's disease with people our age?
Right. It's a very good question. We ask it all the time, as you said, and the answer is difficult. You really need somebody to help you sort it out, because it can be an early sign if you're forgetful more than you were before, or it can just be normal aging. So people need some understanding of when to worry, when to go to the doctor,
Yep.
because it's not black and white. And what we understand about Alzheimer's disease now is it's a very slow disease that starts brewing in the brain for almost 20 years before you get first symptoms. And those first symptoms might look a lot like normal aging. Gee, I forgot your name, or I forgot
Right.
to take out the garbage, as you mentioned. But over time, the symptoms will become more severe, more frequent.
More obvious.
Other things beyond memory will creep in. And you don't want to wait until you're in a crisis situation. You'd like to check it out early, because that's when we think we have the best opportunity to help.
Right. So our audience are boomers, we're
Right.
boomers, and should we
can
be
count me
looking
in
for
there
those
too.
signs? You're in there too.
Absolutely.
Should we be looking for those signs now, and what should we be looking for? Or should we have looked for them earlier?
Yes.
It's kind of, you don't want to look for something you don't want to find.
Exactly
That's right.
Yeah.
And you don't want to live with yourself under a microscope, and every time you forget something, you think, oh my God, there I go again, I've got Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah, and we don't want to be paranoid about things too. So
Right.
what's a normal way to look at normal,
Right.
healthy aging that might involve some memory loss?
Okay, well, we know from about age 30 on, some will say 24 years on, our memory for events is not as strong, and our speed of recall or our reaction time with thinking or memory slows down, but not to the point where it interferes appreciably with day-to-day functions. So you're still able to do your banking, do your shopping, your housework, your job, raise your kids. There may be some frustration not coming up with the name of somebody, but you're functioning well and functioning still efficiently. If you notice that forgetfulness or other change in thinking are interfering with day-to-day tasks, and you're needing either help or a lot more time, or you're making more errors to get to the same end result in your work or at home, then you've crossed a boundary where not only do you have forgetfulness, but it's interfering with day-to-day function, and at that point, you certainly should be getting it checked out. Now, it's not all Alzheimer's disease. It could be you're not getting enough sleep, you're depressed, it's a side effect of a medicine you're on. So getting it checked out allows not just the potential for bad news about a bad disease, but the potential to do something about more treatable things.
I have a friend, someone who's very close to me, and it's not my wife, but someone that I'm very close to, who's about 70 years old. And I'm finding this person repeating herself more and more often, not remembering things that I might have said to her the day before, even though we discussed, it was an issue we discussed. And I'm worried about this person, and I have two questions. First of all, should I be worried? Because I've noticed this pattern getting worse. And secondly, for those of us who do see this in our friends or loved ones or whatever, should we say something? Should we be pointing out to that person that, you don't remember talking about this yesterday? Or is it something we should just leave alone?
Right. How do we behave?
Exactly. Well, it's a good question, and the answer is absolutely you should be doing something, saying something. The scenario you described with your friend, that's not normal aging. That is a red flag that there's increasing forgetfulness, a conversation of importance even the day before hasn't been retained. And how do you say something? What do you do? Some people are very open to the fact that you're concerned, and they'll follow through. But many who are forgetful don't actually realize the extent of their forgetfulness, and they will say, and rightly so, that everybody has a bit of forgetfulness, and all their friends say they're forgetful too. And that's really just masking the problem. It's a way of rationalizing and avoiding the problem. So you really have to be a little bit more forceful. I'm really concerned. Here's a doctor you could see, or would you like to see somebody about that? If it's a family member, you can arrange that appointment. And it's really to get things checked out, not because you're accusing an individual of not trying or not caring, but you're concerned. And I think it's very fair to say to people that we're not good judges of our own memory and when memory change. And those of us who are very worried might have normal memory, and those who aren't worried at all might have a really serious memory disease.
Let's turn things around and
Sure.
be a little bit more positive. What can one do if and when the memory loss starts to occur? Are there useful exercises that people can do? Should we just go to the doctor and get diagnosed? Tell us a little bit about what's the next step when you think it's happening.
Okay. Well, I think even before we think we might have memory loss, one should try to lead a brain healthy lifestyle.
What does that look like?
And
what exercises can you use
Right.
for your brain?
Yes, and there's lots in the media about it. There's no one right recipe, but it's a combination of staying physically active, because your physical health also contributes to cognitive health. So you need physical exercise. You don't have to run a marathon, but you need to walk or garden or do something physical. Cognitive exercise, which means don't be passively watching TV all day, but do some things that you enjoy, whether it's crosswords, Sudoku, going to a movie club. There's no one right activity, but things that stretch your mental ability a little bit are the right thing, not too easy and not too challenging that you become frustrated. A healthy diet.
Being creative, so
Being
writing.
creative, absolutely.
Keeping your mind active.
Absolutely, and there's so many ways to do that, and some people will do that through travel and discussion groups, and other people will do that, as we said, through crosswords and Sudoku. But staying active and staying socially connected are important. Using language, you know, as we become forgetful, we become less confident, we withdraw, less opportunity to use our intellectual abilities, and it's a bad recipe. So we stay away from the activities that may be very helpful. And other things are to ensure one's sleep is of good quality and adequate length, because you need sleep to encode memories properly and sort memories. And to try and avoid stress, because stress, chronic stress, interferes with memory structures in the brain. So lots of things can be done from a lifestyle standpoint, helping people actually do the right things. I didn't mention diet and, you know, brain healthy
I was
diet.
gonna ask
These
about that.
things,
Yeah.
Diet, exercise, but alcohol and tobacco and bad diet, do those all contribute
Sure
to
they do, yes.
cognitive impairment?
Yes, they can by themselves. Alcohol by itself can damage memory and other structures in the brain. But certainly if you're on the path to Alzheimer's disease or normal aging taking its toll on cognition, adding other things, whether it's alcohol or things that would promote stroke or hardening of the arteries in the brain, those are going to aggravate the problem. So there are lots of lifestyle things that we can do. We have an epidemic of obesity. That's not going to help our younger
And
folks
that
as
doesn't
they
help our
age.
memories or anything else either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's more than that, and we're really in the age now of looking at a disease like Alzheimer's disease from the prevention opportunity standpoint. And so there may actually be medicines that people can try
Yeah. What
within
might
a
those
research
be? Now,
program.
what about the aspirin a day, or the baby aspirin a day theory?
Yes. Well, baby aspirin a day is helpful for preventing stroke if you've already had a
And stroke is
and
one of
heart
the
attack.
causes potentially of Alzheimer's or dementia.
Well,
is that
Alzheimer's
correct?
is a separate disease, but stroke on top of it
Right.
is
Well, I
a
wanted
bad
to ask you about
synergy.
dementia and Alzheimer's while we're at it.
Sure.
What is the difference?
Okay.
Because a lot of us
Yes,
interchange those terms.
Yes. Dementia is a syndrome. It's a term used to describe people who have cognitive impairment of a magnitude that they can't function independently, or their function is being affected significantly by their
So
cognition.
it's pretty broad then.
Right, and there are many causes. And Alzheimer's disease is the commonest cause in boomers or people over the age of 65, certainly. Alzheimer's disease is the big cause of dementia. There are other causes. Stroke can cause dementia, head injury. You know, you're fine 1 minute, car crash, and you're not the same from then on. So head injury related dementia. So Alzheimer's disease is a common cause, but it's a particular disease, and it has a period of time where you're not demented. So this opportunity of 10 to 20 years before symptoms, or the first 5 years where the symptoms are very mild, there's lots still to preserve. And these other approaches that I was talking about, not just lifestyle, but where you could try within a research protocol a medicine that might get at the underlying changes going on in the brain, and you know, in the appropriate people, give you a treatment to lower amyloid levels, for example, a protein that we think is very damaging to the brain over the course of the disease.
Sharon, we've got 10 seconds.
Okay.
Very quickly, in the next 20 years, do you see a pill that will eradicate this problem?
I'm very hopeful that we are getting closer, and it's a very complicated system, the brain, but yes, I do think we'll have a treatment.
That's
Thank
great to hear.
Thanks so much for these insights tonight. It's very practical advice for all of us. And next up on Toronto Boomers, some destinations to consider as we talk about taking a cruise. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Or perhaps we should say bon voyage, as you may want to book yourselves on a cruise after this next discussion.
I've only been on one cruise in my life. How about you?
None yet. I'm
Well,
thinking.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, do think hard about it, because if you're a rookie seaman or a veteran, we have someone with us now who's going to give us some useful advice. We welcome Peter Wong, president and co-owner of Cruise Holidays Luxury Travel Boutique, located here in the GTA.
Peter, thanks for joining us. And let's start with a question for people like myself who have not taken cruises. What are some of the myths and misunderstandings about cruises? For me, it's always the idea that I'll get on this boat, I'll have seasickness or motion sickness, and it'll be a difficult, if not horrible, experience. Is that one of the myths?
That is one of the myths. I think a lot of people feel that seasickness is something that's common. It isn't. And a lot of our guests come back having enjoyed a wonderful trip. The ships are larger these days, so there's less motion that you feel. And there are river cruises as well, which are a wonderful opportunity to introduce yourself to a cruise.
It's a little tamer.
It's
is it?
tamer.
Yeah, the waters aren't
rivers,
as rough.
rivers are never rough. So it's a wonderful way to experience the cruise style of travel.
Peter, let's turn Helen's question around a little bit. What are the advantages of taking a cruise as opposed to a land-based holiday?
Well, it's a wonderful way to see many different parts of the country without having to pack or unpack. I mean, if you think about Europe, a lot of the major wonderful cities like Vienna and Budapest are built along the rivers. And a river cruise will take you from one city to another in a relaxing style. You don't have to sit in a coach for hours on end. You can go work out in the gym or sit by the pool with a glass of wine and watch the scenery go by. So that's one of the wonderful experiences of cruising.